the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast, a very special episode. You got Josh and Justin here in the studio, but we've got a very special guest, Mr. Felix Wright, former Browns player from, 85 to 92, I believe, correct?
Well, 85 to 90, I was with the Browns. Then 91, 92, I was with the Vikings.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So this will be a very interesting episode for us. And Justin's older than I am, but for me, it was funny looking back at through your accolades and everything. And I'm saying, oh, okay. So I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 89. So I was like, I didn't get to experience the you on the field, which,
right.
But going back and looking at everything, pretty impressive. So we'll dive into a bunch of that stuff and talk about all things Browns today.
Yes.
Very exciting time. So just before we start, got to shout out the Tuscarawas County Browns backers for providing us with this opportunity to sit down, have this conversation. They've got you coming over to Shenanigans Bar and Grill in Dover
looking
for the
forward.
game today. It's going to be a ton of fun for you guys. So if you're local to this area, Dover, Tuscarawas County, and here in Ohio, check out the T County Browns backers. Get a hold of Rich. Just an awesome group.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess
You want me to kick some questions off?
This thing off. Let's have a good conversation.
All right. So I doing some research, your journey to the NFL was pretty incredible. You know what I mean? It was kind of like an improbable deal. But I just wanted to kind of have you just explain how everything happened with, getting even to the CFL, with the Hamilton Wildcats, and then just how you ended up getting to the Cleveland Browns. It's a great story.
It was a little crazy. I wish it was a little easier getting there, but I got there, which is all that mattered in the end. I never gave up. But, I grew up in a small town in Carthage, Missouri, which is about 11,000 people, and played football, basketball, and baseball. And actually, baseball was actually my best sport. Mm-hmm. I loved it growing up. Actually, I was an all-state baseball player, but just an all-conference football player. But played well enough my senior year to where I got offered a scholarship from my only scholarship from Drake University. And I wanted to wait until baseball because I had a ton of interest there, from Arizona State, and all the big 8 schools back then. But my mom and dad says, we're gonna take this scholarship because we don't know if you're going to be able to go without the scholarship. Right. So I ended up taking the football scholarship and moved up to Des Moines, Iowa, and had a great time there. Actually got a degree and played 4 years there. And we were in the Missouri Valley Conference, and although the Missouri Valley Conference was a Division I conference, we didn't get a lot of recognition because we were nestled in between Iowa City, where the Hawkeyes are, and about 30 minutes from Ames, Iowa, where Iowa State was. And so they pretty much got all the publicity, and we didn't get much. But we did beat Colorado a couple of times, which was really cool back in the day. But, we had a couple scouts come through, our senior year for senior day, but none of them really showed any interest in what I was capable of doing. So I didn't get an opportunity to go to the next level. But what happened was that I had, gotten a letter from an agent that I opened up and read it and didn't really do anything about it. So I kind of stowed it away in my books and headed back to Missouri and tried to figure out what I was going to do the rest of my life. So I kind of reverted back to my education. I got a physical education degree and wanted to be a coach. I always wanted to kind of be a coach because that's what one of my uncles did, and it seemed like he was having a good time doing that and helping the young fellas out. So I just started applying for jobs back home and got a job at Joplin, Missouri, which is probably about 15 minutes away, and got a job there teaching a little history, a little physical education, and we had some driver's ed back in school back then and did a little bit of that as well. So I have a little health education, which was really cool, and also got an opportunity to coach football, ladies basketball, and boys and girls track. So it was really cool. Mm. So I went back there, not reluctantly, because I went back home and I got a chance to be around the family and friends, but I was kind of disappointed that I just didn't get an opportunity to play at the next level. Didn't, just shut out. And so just kind of went about my business and started to just kind of refocus on what I wanted to do, maybe become a head coach and then maybe move up to the college level and that. And so, during my first year there, we started off with football. So I got to introduce myself to the kids and kind of tell them where I came from and what I do. And we had a so-so football team. We actually didn't win any games that year.
That's okay. So, that wasn't a reflection of the coaching.
Yeah, it wasn't a reflection of that. We just didn't have the athletes. But probably halfway through the season, a couple of the coaches and I were out, and practice really wasn't going well. And one of the coaches asked me to go out and kind of demonstrate what we want to do, as far as the defensive backs. And so I went out there and kind of demonstrated how to do, obviously the bump and run technique. And then obviously, backpedaling and getting out, getting your hips turned around, and just kind of explaining that to the kids. And then we just kind of, finished out practice, and then we got in the locker room, as we do after every practice. The coaches get together and have their meeting and kind of talk about the practice and everything. And a couple of coaches were just kind of sitting there, like in a room like this, just kind of looking at me and said, "Man, why are you here, man? You should be somewhere. You should be somewhere playing." And I'm like, "Oh man, what are you talking about?" I said, "Those are high school kids." I said, when you get to the pros, it's a little different. And also a big difference from college. And they said, "Man, I just can't believe that you're here with us. We're happy you're here, but you should be somewhere else." So what happened is that I left that practice that day, and just brainstorming on my drive home, because I still lived in Carthage and Joplin was about 20 minutes away, and so I had a lot of time to think, after practice. And when I was going back, I got home and I talked to my mom for a little bit, and I just said, "Hey, Mom, do you have my school books?" I said, "I got a letter in one of my school books. Do you think you can, I still have that?" And she said, "Well, yeah, all your college stuff is up in the attic. I'll go up there and see if I can find it." So she went up there and found it. It took her just a couple of minutes and came down with the letter. And basically I just said, "Well, let me call this agent up and see what he can do for me." So I called up the agent, and the agent's name was Elliot Lehman. He's an attorney out of Philadelphia. And I called him up that same evening and said, "Hey, Elliot, this is Felix." He says, "Oh, I know who you are. You never called me."
Right.
I'm like, "Well, I thought agents call players to get players." And he says, "I don't really work that way, but we're talking now." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm back here coaching, and I still have a desire to play football. And I'm probably in better shape than I've ever been, because everything I ask my athletes to do, I do." And I says, "You think you can get me some opportunities to maybe go try out somewhere?" And he says, "Well, Felix," he said, I'll give you a call back in a day or two and see if I can find you anything." So he called me back the next day, and he says, "Well, I got some good news and I got some bad news." He said, "What do you want first?" I said, "Well, give me the good news." And he said, "Well, I got you 2 tryouts." And I'm like, "Well, what could possibly be bad?" He said, "Well, they're both on the same day. So you're going to have to decide which one you want to go to." So the Detroit Lions had a tryout, and then also the Houston Oilers. And so on a teacher's salary, I said, "Well, I'm going to go to the closest place, because I have to drive to it as well." Mm-hmm. So I chose to go to the Houston Oilers. And, I had about a month and a half before the workout. So basically I just kind of went into full mode, just, sharpening my skills with my athletes, because at that particular time, we were just finishing up football, getting ready to go into basketball. And actually went, then time came to where I headed down to Houston, and my uncle, Tinker, actually decided he would, drive me down and kind of, take care of things, while I kind of focus and get ready for the workout. And so we showed up down in Houston, and it was a 2-day tryout camp. And I didn't really know any details. I was just saying, we got to try out. This is where you got to be. This is the time you got to be there. He didn't really give me a whole lot of details. And I just said, okay, I'll be there. And we showed up on Friday. And it's probably about a 6-hour drive down there. And so we got down there. I think that they had 2 sessions, and I was the second session. I was supposed to be Saturday morning, and they had a session Friday afternoon. So we showed up for the Friday afternoon, and there was just like a ton of cars there, and a bunch of people out on the football field. And so showed up, and we went inside the facility. Then we kind of showed up, and there was like about 150 athletes there, or so-called athletes. Yes, right. So, and I'm like, wow, these guys are trying out, for what I'm trying to try out for. And they said, yeah. I said, yeah, you got a session today and we got a session tomorrow. And I said, so you're telling me there's 300 people that's coming to this deal? I said, is there anybody you're really going to get a legitimate look? And he just said, well, it is what it is. You work out and you figure out, if you work out well enough, maybe, you'll get a call. So I became immediately pissed off because I thought, I thought it's a waste of time.
Yep, money. Yeah.
And I said, I looked at my uncle and I said, let's just get out of here. And he said, Felix, I took off work. You're gonna work out. I'm like, all right, I'll give you that. So we went home after that workout, and I stretched, got ready. We ate, we talked about it, what we were going to do, and showed up the next day on Saturday and kind of went through like what they do at the combine. You lift weights, you stretch, they get you they size you up, and you go through your agilities and you catch the ball, you do your back pedaling, and after probably about 45 minutes of working out, they blew the whistle and says, all right, well, everybody come together. And so what happened is that the group that was there on Friday also showed up. So they had just a ton of ball players out there on the football field. And they says, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I know that, there's some guys that had to be here for a couple of days. It cost you some money, but we really appreciate you all coming out and trying out for the Houston Oilers. And furthermore, we've chosen to sign 3 players. And everybody was like, 3 players, 300 people. And I was the second name called. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy because I didn't expect it at all. Because I thought it was really a waste of time. And somehow, some way, I impressed them or got somebody's eye, and got the opportunity to sign a contract. So so we went in and said, come back tomorrow, and we're going to sign you to a couple-year contract, and we'd like for you to come back, right after you finish up your school and work out in the off season until we start training camp. And I'm like, well, fine, we can do that.
This episode is sponsored by Leaf Filter. Browns fans, whether the team is winning or not, you are the most diehard, loyal fans in the league year in and year out. And just like you, Leaf Filter has been supporting clean gutters in Northeast Ohio year after year. And because Leaf Filter is the official gutter guard of the Cleveland Browns, they have a limited time offer for all of you barking dogs. Right now, you can get up to 32% of your entire qualified purchase and 2 free official Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/dogs. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever cleaned your gutters, but it's a tedious, messy, time-consuming chore. So cut down on your weekend home maintenance, cross off another item on that to-do list so you can spend more time watching football on your days off. Leaf Filter uses award-winning patented technology to keep everything out of your gutters except for the water. Schedule your free gutter inspection today for a free no-obligation estimate on protecting your home from flooding, roof damage, rotting siding, foundation issues, and all those things you really don't need to be dealing with as a homeowner. A Leaf Filter trusted pro will clean out your gutters, realign and seal them before installing Leaf Filter. Schedule your free inspection now, and for a limited time, get up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free Browns jerseys at Leaf Filter, leaffilter.com/dogs, DAWGS. That's a free inspection, up to 32% off, and 2 free Browns jerseys with a qualified purchase at leaffilter.com/dogs. Offer valid on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. Full terms and conditions can be found at leaffilter.com/dogs. See representatives for warranty details.
So that's kind of the story how I got to, got an opportunity to kind of show what I did, in that short little 45 minutes, to just basically just running. We didn't do any tackling or anything like that. It was just kind of showing your agility, your speed, how you catch the ball, and somehow, some way, I just caught somebody's eye there and got lucky, and just probably at the right place at the right time,
Sure.
and signed the contract. And then I went back and I actually had to notify the school that I had signed a contract with the Houston Oilers and what they thought about that, and they were happy, and they just said, "Man, that's great." He says, what we have to do is we have to come up with a date that, if you make the team, which we hope you do, that, you're going to have to, resign, because we have to get somebody else in here that's going to take your spot. And I don't remember the specific date in August, but they, we set a date, and it says, okay, if you're still on the team by this date, then you're going to have to resign so we can hire somebody else. I think it's maybe like August 20th or 20 something. And so what I did is as soon as school was out, I think back then we got out in May, and I moved down to Houston, and I moved in with a cornerback that I'd kind of befriended when I was there. His name's Greg Stemrick, and he let me move in with him. I moved back in with him and a guy named J.C. Wilson, who was the other cornerback that was there, and they were gracious enough just to kind of let me just, use one of their spare rooms and just kind of hang out. And I think that had a lot to do with the coaches there as well.
Yep.
And so, I went there, started working out. We went to the facility every day and worked out and got bigger, stronger, and then went into training camp. And we were down in San Angelo State,
okay,
where they had their training camp. And one of my buddies that when I was down there became who's the running back? What's his name? Texas, Earl Campbell.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Earl Campbell. And we befriended each other, and we just started talking and hanging out, and he was giving me some pointers on what I need to do, and you're going to be okay. And through training camp, which honestly I thought it's probably the best training camp I had, even in all the 8 years that I played in the NFL and CFL. I tell you, the one down in Houston was probably my best training camp I ever went through. And so we got into a couple of preseason games, and I played corner. I played corner, and then also I played a little bit of safety. And we came up to the fourth game, and in preseason, where it's kind of decision time, and the crazy thing is that I think the date was like August 20th, and the game was on August 21st. And so I had to resign from the school, and played in the game, played okay, and then got called in and got released on the 22nd, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so I had to resign from the school, didn't have a job, and got let go.
Yep.
And I remember going in and giving them my playbook, and Ed Biles was the coach then, and he said, "Felix, we just kind of ran into the numbers, and we think you're a good ball player, but we're gonna go with these guys." And I said, "Okay." And then as I was walking out, there was the defensive back coach. His name is Kenny Houston. I don't know if you guys have heard that name. He's a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny said, "Felix," he said, "I apologize." He says, "You had a great training camp, but I promise you'll be back in the league down the road." And I'm like, whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like, get out of my face.
Right.
He says, "Oh, I promise you'll be back." He says, "I had no decision in this. They made this decision without my input, but I really feel you'll be back." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I traveled back home. Actually, they fly you back home, and I flew back home. And the evening I got home, I just, I had to try to figure out what the heck I was going to do for the rest of my life. Was I going to try and get another job? It was kind of too late because we're already into the school but the next day I got a call from the Hamilton Tiger Cats out of the Canadian Football League, and they called me up and they said, "Felix, we saw you in training camp. You can come up and play for us right now." Right. And I'm like, wow, I know you guys are up north, but isn't it kind of cold up there? And they say, well, yeah, it can get a little nippy, but, it's kind of the same weather as New York or Ohio or, And I'm like, I don't, I know the game is different up there. Because I've never really watched the CFL because, back then, we didn't have ESPN, so we didn't get a chance to really watch it. And they just said, well, we'll teach you the game when you come up. And I said, all right. Well, I said, well, how does this work? And they said, well, what we'll do is we'll put you on a 14-day trial. And I'm like, okay, all right. So what does that do? And they just said, well, it's just to see if, if we like you and if you, can become accustomed to the game. And I'm like, well, all right, I'll do that. So they flew me up the next day and, went in and practiced. And I was there for like a couple of days. And, it was crazy back then because with the 14-day trial, they pay you $200 a week. Yeah, it was pretty wacky. And I was kind of, because I went down to Houston, I just signed a contract. I didn't sign, there was no signing bonus or anything like that. So when I, and I got paid throughout the year until August, until I had to resign. But after that, the money was kind of cut off, and I didn't have a house or anything like that, and so I was up there for a couple of days, and I'm like, man, this ain't for me. I said, plus the game was totally different. And I says, I need. So I went into the office. I says, listen, you can keep your $200. I says, I got to go. I said, I got to get out of here. I says, I'm going to go back to my coaching career. And, it was just unfamiliar. The field was bigger. It was longer. The receivers are in motion. It was just something different that So I flew home. I flew home that, I think, I got cut on that Sunday. And so they flew me up on Monday. I flew back on Tuesday. And, got home. And as soon as I got home, they called me up. They called me back up and said, hey, Felix, we made a mistake. We need you back up here. And I'm like, I said, nah. I said, I've kind of made up my mind. I'm just going to, probably go into coaching and figure it out. And they said, well, what's it going to take to get you up here? And I'm like, well, I got some bills, man.
More than $200.
Yeah, more than $200. I said, I got to pay some bills. And they said, well, how much do you need? And I said, man, I need about $1,500. So, and it's funny because I've never really told the story about the money part of it. And they says, I said, let me give you a call back. And so they called me back about an hour later and says, all right, we got the $1,500 for you. And I was like, well, you better have it on have it when I get off the plane. And they says, yeah, we'll have it there for you. So I flew back on Wednesday. Well, actually, it was probably that Thursday because they called me late on that Wednesday. So I flew out that Thursday. And I got there Thursday, and right when I got off the plane, they had cash waiting for me. It was Canadian money, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's all right. Hey.
Yeah, it was
cash
cool.
is cash.
I converted it and paid a few bills.
There we go.
And so I got in there on Thursday, and then practiced on Friday, and then we headed out to practiced on Friday, like a little walkthrough, and said, this is what you're going to be doing, da-da-da-da. And then they say bring your clothes because after practice we're just going to get on the bus, travel to Toronto, and we're flying out to Edmonton. So this all happened so quick because I got in there Thursday afternoon, practiced Friday, boom, we head to Edmonton, and I'm in the starting lineup, on Friday, and so we get out there on Friday. I got my uniform, everything's cool. Get out there, and the quarterback on the other side is Warren Moon.
Oh. Okay.
For the Edmonton Eskimos. And so the game's Saturday. And so the first 7 to 8 passes were directly at me because I'm the new guy. I'm the rookie. And I think I don't remember, it was the 4th or 5th pass, he got it. I took it back to the house about 70 yards. And that's kind of how it got started.
Yep.
So I finished it. I think we ended up winning that game, and then we went. So they were already like 3/4 of the way through the season. So I only played like 2 or 3 games that season, and we lost our first game in the playoffs. And then, after the season, they just said, "Hey, we we really like you. We want to re-sign you for to a 2-year deal. And so that was I went up there in '82, and then I signed a 2-year deal in '83, '84, and made the All-Star team up there. And both of those years led the team and in the Eastern Conference. It led in interceptions, and then which kind of afforded me an opportunity to get some opportunities back in the United States.
Yeah, I saw from what I read about you. Pretty much it would be almost like their Grey Cup, like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, playing the Grey Cup.
Balled out, two interceptions or something like that.
Well, yeah, because we were kind of just a mediocre team. We're just really above. I think we were just above 500. But they only have like eight teams up there, and we made the playoffs, and we had to go to Toronto for the Eastern Final. So we won our like a wild card game up there, and then we in Toronto and Hamilton, because I played for Hamilton, we were in the Eastern Final, which is the game to take you to the Grey Cup, and I had 4 interceptions.
Okay, I cut you a little. I cut you a little light there. Jeez.
Yeah, I had 4 interceptions. I had the 5th one in my hand, and the 4th. So the 4, and then we ended up winning by like a couple points, and then it took us into the Grey Cup. And then in the Grey Cup, I got an interception in the first quarter there. But we were ahead there for a couple quarters, and then we actually ended up losing it in the second half. But the crazy thing about it is that although I played pretty well, I still didn't really have any NFL people really looking at me. And we had a quarterback that that was doing really well. Actually, we traded for him midseason. So when I first got there, our quarterback was. Guy's name was Tommy Clements. I remember that name. He was a quarterback for Notre Dame back in the day.
Okay.
Really good. And then so Winnipeg and Hamilton did a quarterback swap in like 84, my last year there. So we traded Tommy Clements to Winnipeg, and they traded Dieter Brock to Hamilton. And then we ended up playing them in the Grey Cup that year,
right?
Which is crazy,
right?
Okay, but Dieter was having a great year, and so he had a lot of NFL scouts looking at him. So a lot of NFL scouts were coming up to practice, and they'd come to the games and check us out. And while they were up there watching Dieter play in these playoff games, I made all those interceptions. And I'm like, wow, man, maybe we better take a look at this guy. Yep. And so that's how I got my opportunity. Is when they were up there looking at him, they saw me, and the 4 interception game, and then the one for the Grey Cup. I had 5 picks in 2 games. I got a call from Green Bay, the Raiders, and the Browns, and the Chargers, and so and then came back and worked out for all those teams, and actually ended up choosing the Browns because of Marty Schottenheimer.
That's right. That's what I read. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because of Marty.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to Cleveland.
It's incredible. Crazy.
I was a little long-winded.
No. I mean, I think it. It has a lot of context. How difficult the journey can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you never gave up.
Yeah.
While we're talking about like Marty and those guys, those are the teams. Like when growing up, my mom would be like, when things were bad with the Browns, she'd be like, man, in the '80s, these guys were so good. That was like the beacon of light as far as Cleveland Browns, teams and stuff like that. Marty obviously is a legend, but
he's a legend. Absolutely.
Talk about Marty, and then what was it like having Bill as your defensive back coach? You know what I mean?
Well, actually, you're talking about Bill
Cowher.
Bill Cowher. Oh yeah, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we Bill was he was a
wild boy.
He's a little different. Yeah, Bill was pretty cool because when I came to the Browns in '85, Bill was the special teams coach.
Okay.
Yeah, so he hadn't been promoted up to the defensive back coach yet, but he was his nickname is called Face.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we didn't call him Bill, we called him Face. Hey, what's up, Face? Because he was always in your face when he was talking. Right. I don't know why, but that's just kind of his personality. When he talked to you, you figured he'd need to be all up on you. And so he did a great job at special teams. And my first year, my goal was my goal was to make the team any way I could, as a defensive back, as a special teams guy. So I had to deal with Bill a lot because I was on all the special teams because I wasn't in the starting lineup in the beginning. And then the next year he became the defensive back coach.
Yep.
And he had never played defensive back before, so we gave him a lot of crap for that. Trying to tell Minifield and Dixon, all pros,
right, yeah,
what to do. We was like, but he's good. He's a good game planner. He had his stuff together, and obviously because he eventually became a head coach and did really well at Pittsburgh. But Bill was a real cool guy, and actually we still talk on occasion because I see him at the Hall of Fame game. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yes, sir.
And all that. But I would have never imagined him being a Hall of Famer at that particular time, because I actually was coached by two Hall of Famers, actually Bill Cowher and then Tony Dungy.
Oh, wow.
Tony Dungy was my defensive coordinator and defensive back coach for the Vikings.
Wow, yeah.
Under Dennis Green.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had some, been fortunate to have some good coaches and some supportive coaches that, gave me an opportunity to further my career and obviously put me in position to make some things happen.
This episode is brought to you by Bodden Sports. Browns fans, Bodden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Bodden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Bodden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Bodden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Bodden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Bodden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard games section of Bodden's website, where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Bodden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BoddenSports.com/dogs. Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time about how, what is it? 33%, I think, right now. The 33% of the league is made up of undrafted players. Mm-hmm. So
is that right?
I'm pretty sure that's the stat we looked up earlier this year when we were, talking about some of these guys. And I mean, it just goes to show that, the draft is the draft. There is so much of the league that is comprised of the undrafted players who all have stories, like yours and all kinds of different, paths that they take to get there. I mean, like right now for the Browns, it's Ronnie Hickman and Anthony Bell are the defensive backs. We talk about all the time that were undrafted, and they played so well for the Browns.
It's weird how that happens, because you think that the NFL is they miss as well. On
first round picks and
Well, and look at Brock Purdy. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He's the last pick in the draft. He almost he was one pick from not being drafted.
Right.
Which is crazy to me, but. Yeah, it happens, and you get overlooked, and it also the school you go to also plays a role as well, because you look at like the Ohio States, the Michigans, they're automatically going to get looked at because that's where they're at. But if you're at a smaller school like a MAC school or schools like that, you don't get a lot of recognition, you don't get a lot of TV time, and you have to have a coach that's willing to put you out there. Now back in the day we didn't have. What's that they have now for the high school kids where they promote themselves on the video?
Like the scouting, I guess
the
it'd be like their highlight reel.
The highlight reel.
Yeah.
They got where they can put the spotlight on them. This is put the circle around them where they're at. We didn't have any of that back in the day, So you just kind of had to get lucky and find like me with a letter from an agent that called up some teams and said give this guy a shot. And he didn't have any film on me from from back then either, you know.
Yeah.
Plus, we were still using the projectors back in the day when I was playing as well. So,
well, like for you, you never know who's watching.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because it was like your training camp down in Houston, you didn't know who was watching, and that's how you got your call to Canada, and then you didn't know who was scouting.
Exactly.
You know, they were there to scout somebody else, but they saw you. You get your in the NFL. Like it's just you never know who's
it's
watching.
It's unbelievable. And you know what? I get asked to go out and speak, you know, here and there, and speak to athletes all the time, and I just basically tell them, I says, hey man, you got to stay ready.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're going to get that call. And the last thing you want to say is, man, I had that chance, but I just wasn't ready.
Yep.
You know? So.
Yeah. Was there anything, I know we're kind of running up against time here, but
I'd say let's move to the current Browns.
Yeah.
The current state of the Browns right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll start with preseason. I saw a video where you were talking about, you know, the preseason for you guys, you know, in the 80s, and you basically maybe get a half in the first game, but you were playing on the fourth game. You were playing the whole damn game, you know, to get ready. You know, this preseason, we didn't see really anything from any of our starters. I guess, you know, do you think that had anything to do with where we're at as far as?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. I think it had. Yeah, significant deal. You know, I don't understand the philosophy there. I mean, the game's changed a lot. Obviously, you know, we hit every day in training camp. Right. Mm-hmm. We hit on Wednesdays and Thursdays during the week. You know, to stay sharp. We tackled well. You know, we had good teams, but I think we had good teams because we practiced hard and we worked on the things we needed to work to be successful on Sunday. And preseason is to get ready for the regular season. And you know, it was kind of strange to me. I mean, we talk about it, you know, the guys, and said, wow, I mean, you know, I mean, obviously you've been playing the game for a number of years and you know the game, but you still have to prepare and get ready. Because, you know, back in the day, even before me, you know, guys used training camps to get in shape. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we were in that era to where we were, you know, it was changing to where we came into camp in shape and, you know, we just perfected our skills. And then nowadays, I mean, they only take maybe a month off and then they're back at it again, you know, getting ready. But you can tell with the Browns that, you know, when you don't hit on a consistent basis, you don't practice tackling on a consistent basis, then, you know, you're not going to tackle well in games. And we don't tackle very well.
That's very fair. That is a very fair point.
And you know, as far as timing and stuff, I think that's the only way you get things done is you iron those things out in training camp and in preseason. So when, you know, that opening game comes up, you're in sync with everybody. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, because practice is practice when game's a different speed.
Yep.
I mean,
for sure.
And you know, you can't just turn it on at that level.
Yes, sir.
No, and I mean, we've talked about this a ton. It's not just like a Brown specific problem. I mean, it's across the league.
Yeah,
you hear these guys and all these broadcasts talk about, well, the first, you know, 3-4 games of the regular season are kind of like the extended preseason.
Right.
Except these games count.
They count.
Whether you win or lose, it counts for the season record.
Right.
And I mean, just hearing you talk, even in your story earlier about, you know, your training camp experience in Houston and all that kind of stuff, and it just made me think how you know, players like you from your generation must view the league now, because we went up to training camp this past summer. Yeah. And I remember sitting there, we've been to training camp the last 4 or 5 years and everything. We go up and it's just like, this doesn't resemble the regular season. Right. This doesn't resemble a game in any way. There's no hitting really.
Right.
It's kind of soft.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a soft practice. And I feel like it's very regimented. It's routine. They just kind of go through the motions. And then when they go out on the field in an actual game situation, it's like, man, you can tell like they're not prepared.
Right. Well, and also if you're not going full speed and you know, you get into game and you try and turn it on, that's when you have injuries.
That's what we were going to
ask you about the injuries too, because I mean, look at every week they put out, you know, the injury report for the upcoming game, and we are 2 to 3 times the length of every opponent we face.
It's brutal.
It is.
Brutal. And that comes from the top though. You know, that comes from your coaching. I like Stefanski. I think he's cool, but man, you got to produce. You know, you got to produce. I mean, and I don't know what his philosophy is on that particular deal about not playing Deshaun, or not playing some of the starters. But like I said, we used to play at least a half in all the preseason games, and then that last game we played 3 quarters.
Right.
So and we wanted to play. We wanted to be ready. Obviously there's a risk of injury, but we worked through that.
Do you think the players want to play nowadays? Or do you think that like the time off in the preseason, not playing in those games and everything, like is that what they're?
It's kind of weird because even with the concussion stuff, we'd get dinged and we'd be on the sidelines. They would put smelling salts.
Right. Yeah.
You ready to go? Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas now, hell, you're off like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird. I don't know because I'm not there now, but it kind of seems like that they don't want to play sometimes.
In the training camp, like there's so many. We watch. There's veterans standing off to the side. They're not participating. They're taking days off, and it's just
weird.
How, like you said, how do you get ready for the regulars and football? The speed of the game. I mean, it's intense. It is so intense, and
it's real intense.
If you're not out there trying to model that ahead of time, there's no way you're going to be ready.
Well, like they say, practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't practice, then it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have some issues. And I think that's the issues that we have. So we have the talent.
Yeah.
So if you have the talent, then somebody's to blame.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
Who you going to blame it on? Once you have the athletes that you need, you just need to go out there and perfect what they do and take full advantage of it. So there's going to be a fall guy coming probably pretty quick here.
I'd say, maybe a couple.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple fall guys that they're going to blame it on them. But we all know, as far as the veteran, the alumni, when we get together and we talk, all we can do is just pretty much shake our heads. We're just like, well, hopefully they'll figure it out here soon.
Yeah.
Do you think they will?
I
know
we don't have to answer that if you don't want to. I know you.
Well, I actually, thought that they would win last week.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And so that has me a little worried. And today's not going to be any easier.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Deshaun's got to obviously play better.
Yeah.
Our defense has got to play better. Our defense didn't tackle well last week. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
But it's in disarray right now.
It's wild. And for a team that we thought roster wise got better.
Yeah.
I believe, at least, I think you're on board.
Yeah.
It's a better roster, and we've just regressed so much on, top to bottom. Like, it's very crazy.
Yeah, this, to me, it just seems like, wow, when we had Marty, we wanted to play for Marty. We love Marty. Mm-hmm. And although, he had that tough love, and we practiced hard, and but he always said, you practice like you play. Yep. And we were a very physical team. I don't see us being a very physical team right now. We got to figure it out here pretty quick. But I don't know, if we have enough time to do that.
I feel like we were very physical last year, and it's just, for me, the most disheartening thing is watching the fight and the grit and the passion that the whole team played with last year to overcome all the injuries and the adversity. Like we were down and we were getting kicked between the legs last year, it felt like, with everything going on.
Right.
And yet we still came out and found a way to win,
True.
Make the playoffs and everything. And now this year it's just like, I don't feel any passion. I don't see much physicality.
Right.
It's just like everyone's like, whatever.
Yeah.
I get a very nonchalant vibe from this team right now.
Yeah. I don't have the answers. I get asked a lot, but I just say, I don't know what's going on over there. I said I'm not really around it on a daily basis to kind of figure out what's going on, but I know it's not right.
Yep.
So
we'll get you out of here. We got one last. I guess it'd be like our hot question of the off season.
Yeah.
We building a dome, or do you want it to stay on the lake?
I would love it to stay on the lake.
Okay.
Because I think that would be great for the city of Cleveland.
Okay.
but I think it's inevitable that it's going to go to Brook Park because, the owners will be able to kind of run their own thing, and but they're going to need money.
Yeah, money talks.
So that's where it's all at. But I'm kind of hoping it stay downtown because I think if they moved it out, it's going to it will affect downtown
absolutely
tremendously. So I mean, you look at all the other cities. They're moving their. Like Detroit, they used to be out in the suburbs. Now they're in the city. There's a lot of them are moving in the city. So, and Haslam, they're the ones that kind of can control that. So, but there's other spaces down there other than being on the water that they could build. But it's one of those deals where it gets political.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
That is very fair.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be on that one.
That's right.
Well, Felix, we really appreciate you coming in here, sitting down, talking with us. Thanks again, Rich, and the Tuscarawas County Browns backers. Again, if you guys are local to Dover, Philly, Tuscarawas County area, just even the surround, whatever, just get in touch with Rich and the backers. This stuff that you guys put on, and the connections with the former alumni. I mean, this is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. So thanks again
I had a great time.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for the stories and your input on the team and everything. It was awesome.
Good vibes before 1 o'clock.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe we'll pull this one off today.
Okay. I like that.
Full disclaimer.
Nick Sirianni's getting fired tomorrow. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's right.
This was recorded before the Eagles game took place. So when you're watching this, obviously the Eagles game will have already happened. So you'll know the outcome of that. But you heard it here.
You're probably right. You're probably right. If they lose to the Browns, he probably won't be around next week.
I agree. Yeah.
That was Blake's hot take before the season. Was our other host. He said that Nick Sirianni won't make it. Right? Won't make it through the season.
Yeah.
So.
Well, either one of them. I think the other side to Stefanski, but he got some answering to do too.
Yeah.
So his seat is definitely not
comfortable
safe right now. Yeah, not comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, sir.
So again, thanks again for coming in, and for everybody tuning in, we appreciate you guys. Real quick, if you guys are interested in joining the Dog Pack community to get on our Discord shows on Thursdays, head to jointhedogs.com, become an official Dog Pack member, sync up with the private Discord, all that good stuff. You guys know the spiel. So we'll get you out of here.
All right.
Thanks again, and let's go Brownies.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at The Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DOGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order, and that code can be used over and over, so you get 10% off every order you make using code DOGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. dangercoffee.com, code DOGS.